So, Shana Tova, everyone. Want to welcome you all here to our Kol Nidre Yom Kippur services. So happy that you are all here. And before we begin, there's just going to be a few logistics and housekeeping. So first of all, if you are, one second. If you do not have your camera on, it would be wonderful if you did. I'm going to just say a few things. Number one, on the bottom left-hand side of your Zoom screen, although I know you're all like experts, right? At this point, on the bottom, all the way over to the left, there's stop video and start video. And if you click it, it will either hide your video or show your video. And I understand that it's not always possible to keep your video on, like if you're really sick or eating or something like that. But in these times of distance between us, it is really, really nice to see each other and to see all the beautiful faces that are here. And so that's one thing, if you can put your video on. The other thing is at the bottom of the screen, there is a chat box, and we were in the beginning saying where we were from. We were zooming in from, and we have people from all over, not only this country, but from all over the world actually joining us, which is so wonderful. I really, really like to imagine that, when you go someplace, like you go to a gathering or you go to prayer services and you're there and then people keep streaming in the room, right? And the room fills up. You just imagine that that's what's happening here. And the other thing is that in the upper right-hand corner, there is a little icon that says either speaker view or gallery view. And so for just a minute, get speaker views, you just see me. But for the purpose of just opening up, even though I know you just want to see me, I want you to see each other. That was a joke, okay? So I want you to, when you go on gallery view, on the right-hand side of the screen, like right now we have 5 screens, scroll over to the right, to the left, and look at all of the people that are here. All the beautiful eyes, the different places that people are zooming in from. And just know that every one of these boxes, that every person has a story, a sacred story. One of the things I asked or I suggested when you signed up was to set your Zoom space up for the high holidays in a little bit different way than you would for your regular type Zoom meetings. And so if you did that, you set your space up to say, this is going to be my high holiday space. If you have done something that you can hold up and show, why don't you do that now? I'm going to show mine. So I see Natalie has something there. She has a couple things. Mel has something he's showing. Murray has something. A kippah looks like. Oh, and Marilyn has a pillow. Life is too short. Live every moment. That is so Marilyn. If you know Marilyn. So what else do you have? Oh, Linda has something. I can see some of the things. Bethany, I want to show what I'm sharing, okay? As many of you know, my mom, my beloved mother, died, unfortunately, 3 weeks ago, actually. And she was a lover of lilacs. And I talked about how much she loved lilacs. In fact, Josh talked about it at her funeral, our son Josh. And after the funeral, Bethany, where are you, Bethany, shows up at our house. She lives in the same area that we do, with this beautiful photo of lilacs. They're very unusual, that Bethany took photos at the Lilac Festival in Boston, outside of Boston. So now I have this here with me working, and when I'm working and teaching, and I especially brought that out to make this space really special. So we're going to start with a whole lot of blessings, okay? And I hope you all have the prayer book. I want you to think about this time that we're together as mindfulness practice, okay? That we spend this time in prayer, in thoughtfulness, and I encourage you to go in the prayer book and outside the prayer book. We're going to be singing. Ter is joining us for Cantorial Soloist Ter is joining us for singing, but we'll do responsive reading, and I hope that you will participate in your own home. So we're going to begin with blessings and say that let me say one more thing before we start the blessings. The theme of tonight is going to be forgiveness, and that's what I'm going to speak a little bit about tonight. And for tomorrow, the theme is compassion and also memory. Tomorrow we will have a Yizkor service, which is a memorial service. So if you turn to page 3 of your handout, and we will do the blessing of the memorial candles. If you brought candles, people do it in different ways. Some people have one candle that represents all the people that they're remembering, both in the last year and in years past, and other people have one candle for each person. So Eli, my husband, has volunteered to light the candles. I'm going to say the prayer. So if you have candles, now is the time to take them out. And the 4 candles, we're lighting 4 candles. Let me see if you could see here. We're going to light 4 candles in memory of our parents. Oh, let me say the blessing. Ner ze anu madlikim lezichram shel kol ha'avim shalanu yehi zichram baruch. We light these candles in the memory of all our loved ones. May their memory be a blessing. And now we're going to light the Yom Kippur candles. If you have brought them, I'm going to light them for everyone. And we're all on page 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lachadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. And I forgot that, Ter, you were going to sing, right? Go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom Kippurim.
Amen. Amen. And now Yom Kippur is the only day, it's the only night that we wear a talit. So this is my talit that if you've brought your talit, that's wonderful. I see some of you are already wearing yours, but we're going to do the talit blessing together. And we wear the talit in the day when you can see, when the light, you can see the difference between the different strands. But at the nighttime and on Yom Kippur, starting with Kol Nidre, starting tonight, all through tomorrow night, the end, 25 hours is considered one long day. So in essence, tonight, when we start tonight, we are beginning one long day. And so we say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'tzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit. Blessed are you, veiled one, our God, sovereign of all the worlds, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to wrap ourselves amid the fringed talit. Before I put my talit on, the next blessing that we're going to do is the blessing of the Zoom space that we're in, like to really make this place not just our own places in our own homes, but the collection, our collection of people all over, to make this a sacred space. And the blessing, as you can see on page 3, which is a verse from Torah, when Jacob has a dream of angels going up and down. One of our ancestors, Jacob, has a dream of angels going up and down first, which is really interesting. And when Jacob wakes up, Jacob says, Ma nomra hamakom hazeh, meaning, how awesome is this place? Meaning, I thought this was an ordinary place. I put my head down on this rock to sleep. I just think it's any old place, but it's not in any old place. And actually that language, Yesh Hamakom Hazeh, is the language, is the verse that I chose to put on my Atara, on my talit. And I did so that when I put my talit on and I read this, usually people have the Shema, but I decided to put on this verse to remind myself that every place I am, which may look like an ordinary place, is actually a place of potential, of holiness and potential holiness. So put my talit on right now and say together on page 3, Ma Norah Hamakom Hazeh, how awesome is this body, how awesome is this place, how awesome is this journey through time and space. And the last blessing of this section, we're opening with blessings, is the blessing of faces. So once again, I ask you before we say the blessing is to go to gallery view at the top and scroll through. And if you don't have your video on, please put it on and just scroll and pause and notice each other's eyes and faces, knowing that nobody knows the stories behind your eyes, what you're living with, what you're going through, what your joys are, what your pains are. But we're coming here together, so we recognize both our individuality and how we are a collective tonight. And so now let's read together The Blessing of Faces by my friend Alden Solovey. It looks like the reference came off the handout, but so many beautiful faces. You know, we're on page 4. So many beautiful faces, so many radiant souls shining forth into our hearts. Look at those eyes, the smiles, the hopes, the fears, the yearning, the questioning, the compassion, the love. Take it in. Take it in. The love that is being directed towards you. Take that in. Take it all in. The tenderness, the humanity, the blessing of faces arrayed before you, the blessing of faces given and received by Alden Solovey. And as we now get ready to enter Kol Nidre, which I'm gonna say a few words about Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre, which is what tonight is called, and it is called Kol Nidre because of tonight is Kol Nidre, which is also Erev, the evening of Yom Kippur, and it's named because of this major piece that we're going to hear tonight, and also hear Ter chant. And what it says, this prayer, and it's kind of difficult to understand. The prayer says that all vows, Nidre is a vow, and Kol is all vows made to God from last Yom Kippur to this Yom Kippur are annulled. Like you already know that going in. It's the first piece that we do. And what scholars think is that this prayer likely evolved from a time when Jews were forced to convert to another religion under threat of violence and renounce their God, renounce Jewish customs. And so this prayer was instituted to basically say, God forgives you for making vows that you had to make under duress. It's not an annulment of vows that we have made to each other. It's an annulment of vows that we've made to God. The rabbis over the centuries did everything they could. They didn't like this prayer. They didn't feel like it was relevant anymore. And so they tried to take it out of the liturgy. And every time they tried to take it out of the liturgy, the people revolted. I mean, it wasn't a violent revolt, but people wanted to have this prayer. It just became so beloved to the community around the world. There's a mournful quality which you will hear, which sets the tone for the holiday. We are going to hear two cellists they're Carrie and Daniel Domes. They're professional cellists originally from Toronto and now living in Nova Scotia. And the video, they were hired by City Shul of Rabbi Elise Goldstein. And I just want to say one thing I've learned about these times of pandemic is that musicians are, their gigs, a lot of musicians are suffering now, artists, musicians, singers, etc. And so I do have, and I believe, Josh, you might have it, a PayPal link that if you want to make a contribution to them, it would be wonderful. So Josh, maybe put up the video. And before we start the video, Josh, hang on. Before we start the video, let me just say that I I recommend that you put yourself in a meditative position. It's a 5-minute piece, that you put yourself in a meditative space to receive. You might want to close your eyes, you might want to open your eyes, but to really just listen to what the music stirs within you. So pay attention. Josh. And now we're going to hear Ter. We're on page 5, and Ter is going to chant the words to Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre Besarei Ushuye Baharamei Bachonamei Bekinusei Behinuye Din Darna Udish Tabana Uda Harina Udi Asana Al Nashatana Yom Kippurim She'avar Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu L'Tova Kulhom Icharat Navehon Kulhon Yahon Sharan Shvikim Shavitim Batelin Umvutalin Lasharirin Vala Kayamin Nidrana La Nidrei Asarana Lasare Ushavuatana La Shavuot.
So let's read together, you in your own place. I'm going to read it, but you're reading with me in the middle of page 5. All the vows, promises, and oaths we make with God, all the obligations and restrictions we place on ourselves in God's name, all the harsh things we say only to regret them, the things we promise and forget, the punishments we call down on ourselves from heaven, the deals we bargain with God in a moment of duress, the good-hearted resolutions we cannot fulfill after honest effort. For all of these, from this Yom Kippur to the next, we request release. May they be dissolved and annulled. A reflection on all we are. And you notice when I said that the Kol Nidre is Kol is all. And so in this prayer, we're picking up on the all, Kol. Kol Nidre at the bottom of page 5. All the words better left unsaid, but all of them said. Words carelessly cast upon loved ones, friends, and co-workers. Cast across the room and now across Zoom, across Twitter, across Facebook. Like God at creation, we create and shatter worlds with our words. V'nislach lecho adat b'nei Yisrael. Together, let us begin by having compassion on all of us, for we are all flawed, and yet we all have tried to do the right thing. We have failed, but also succeeded. We are human. V'lager hager b'tocham. Each of us, top of page 6, each of us has a stranger, hager, dwelling in our midst. That which seems foreign and troubling, yet lives within each of us as imperfect beings. But that all, Kol, is really part of who we are. Until we acknowledge we cannot change. Until we acknowledge that, we cannot change. Ki kol ha'am bishgaga, together, but then you realize that all is not how you want to be. You don't want to say hurtful things. You don't want to be envious. You are acting bishgaga, which means unintentionally or unconsciously or even unwisely, but most often not maliciously. This Kol Nidre is an opportunity to make out of the many aspects of who we are a healthier whole. E pluribus unum, out of many, one, taking the broken pieces and the whole pieces and bring the allness of ourselves together. Salachna la'avon ha'am hazeh kigodel hasdacha. And in this piece together, Moses prayed to God on behalf of all the people, please forgive their failings now. So this is the piece that I want to say a few words about tonight, okay? That at this moment in the service, at the very beginning, after we say Kol Nidre, we get this piece of liturgy that the rabbis created. And what they did is they took when the people created the golden calf, there were two major betrayals in the Torah that the Jews got in huge trouble with. Both times God wanted to wipe them off the face of the earth because they were so egregious. One was the golden calf, and the other was the story of the scouts, the spies, who were supposed to go out. They went out and looked at the land that we were, Israel, and they came back and they said, oh, we can't do it. They had no faith. And all the people fell on the ground and said, we should have stayed in Egypt. Both of those times, the golden calf and the spies, and the way the community responded are both times that Moses went to God with a plea to God to forgive the people. We're going to talk about that. So let me get my notes up here. So this first piece that we just said, the first piece was where Moses goes to God and says, please forgive them. We just said that. And here in the liturgy, what we have is that we have, let me see, it's hard to do. We didn't do it on the screen. So now it means that I've got to find it. Okay. So you look on the bottom of page 6. Moses prays to God on behalf of all the people, please forgive them. And God responded, Salachti kid varecha, I have forgiven as you have asked. Salachti kid varecha. And what is interesting about this is that we know at the very beginning of this service of Kol Nidre, we haven't even started our pounding of the chests or our, confessions that we do together that we're going to do tomorrow. Mostly we're going to do that tomorrow. We haven't even begun that. So what does it mean that the rabbis would put in the liturgy the idea that before we do all the confessions, we know in advance that we are going to be forgiven? It's an image of God that is very different than the normal image that I think comes across at the high holidays of God as the one who makes judgments. This is a God that is very compassionate in the sense that I think about it like for those of you who have children or grandchildren, it's even, I think, easier for grandchildren, even though we don't yet have them. I'm imagining from what I hear that when the love that you have is so strong that what you communicate is no matter what you do, you can come home to me. No matter who you are, no matter what you are, you make money, you lose money, you marry, you divorce, you don't find someone, however your life is, and whoever you are, you can come home to me. That kind of love is the love that's being depicted in this prayer that the rabbis put at the very beginning of the liturgy. Now, it does not mean that we can skate on doing our own work, because here what we're talking about are the wrongs that we have done against God, for example. In terms of our relationships with other people, we still need to do the reflection that some of you have been doing, the return workbook, where you've been writing your answers to those questions I posed in the workbook. That kind of teshuvah work is the work that where you realize, I have hurt so-and-so. And in Judaism, there is a process for asking for forgiveness. We know, it says it in our prayers, we are not supposed to go to God in synagogue and ask for forgiveness for something that we did to our neighbor that we feel bad about, unless we have gone to our neighbor. We have to go to our neighbor first. And number one, we need to say verbally, I am sorry for what I did. I want to make it up to you. So there's some kind of restitution. What can I do? And the third thing you say is, I will not do it again. These were laws that Maimonides in the Middle Ages really laid out in his Mishneh Torah. On the other hand, I need to say, and I need to tell you a story, which is that I remember way before rabbinic school, I was in a workshop on forgiveness at a Jewish conference, and I was really troubled by the fact that I would sit in Yom Kippur and read all the prayers, and I had in my life a very, I will say, emotionally abusive relationship. And somehow I felt as I sat there that I should forgive that person, even though that person had never apologized, had never said, Jill, I'm sorry for what I said, what I did over a whole bunch of different years. And so there was a rabbi there, and I asked him, I said, am I required to sit in temple and forgive that person? When he asked me, the rabbi, did the person ever ask for your forgiveness? Did they say they're sorry? And I said, no. And he said, you are not required. You are not required to forgive. So I found that really interesting, because as a woman in this culture, and as someone who says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, a lot, more than probably I should, not that any of you can relate to that. However, this is just like something that I do. I sat in temple thinking I should just forgive this person, even though they did not do the work. And so there's that piece of it. The other part of it is, however, at a certain point, and this, I'm sharing this personal story, at a certain point I realized that holding on to my hurt and anger was actually painful for me, meaning that it affected my soul in a way that I didn't like walking around with that much unresolved anger. And I realized that that person would probably never say they were sorry. There was never going to be restitution. And so I made an individual decision for my own healing that I would forgive for my own soul. So these are very complicated psychological concepts, spiritual concepts. And I think that it's important to understand that in Judaism, that on the other hand, is that if someone does apologize to you 3 times and you refuse their apology, that person, if they have sincerely apologized, attempted to make restitution, they ask for forgiveness, and you will not give it to them, that person is absolved. Okay? They don't have to keep apologizing after 3 times if they've done it sincerely. Let's look at page 8 for this prayer by Trisha Arlen, another wonderful poet. Okay. It's called All Our Grudges, an alternative Kol Nidre. All grudges, resentment. Did I say page 7? Page 7. All grudges, resentments, and vows of vengeance and bitterness, all undying hatreds or annoyances that we may hold on to or talk endlessly about, boring our friends, or lose sleep obsessing over, or write bad poetry about, or bring up at family dinners to the consternation of all present. And then read, I hope you're reading together with me, okay? From the previous Day of Atonement until this Day of Atonement, for the benefit of our mental health and the peace of mind of all who surround us, regarding all of this that we have refused to let go, despite the fact that they are long past or pointless or one-sided or ridiculous or destructive of the innocent or hurting ourselves more than anyone else. Regarding all of them, these intrusions on the holy wholeness, we repudiate them, all of them. We let them go, give up, wave away, acknowledge as stupid, declare null and void because we are done. Our grudges are no longer our grudges. Our silent resentments are no longer silent. Our eternal vows of vengeance are no more. The entire community acknowledges and takes action so that everyone we have been angry at is forgiven. Every hurt we did not speak about will be dealt with. Every relative will be loved for who they are rather than who they are not. Every change in the world that needs to be made will be made rather than contemplated. Holy wholeness. We need help to step back into connection with the one. We look for compassion and mercy that is always there if we but pay attention. Yes, there it is. We are forgiven. Blessed be the oneness, creator, created, creating. Amen. We're going to do a meditation. And Ter is going to strum lightly in the background. We'll see if this works. So just take a moment to settle physically, closing your eyes, focusing on your breath, letting go of distractions, opening your heart. And look inward. Think of a moment when you felt disappointed in yourself, guilty, a moment or chapter you wish you could redo. Maybe you hurt someone you love. Maybe you didn't live up to your hopes of who you want to be. Maybe it's not just one moment. Maybe it's a pattern of behavior. An addiction, a habit of thought, or speech, or action, or inaction. And what were the choice points, the moments when you might have made a different decision? And in your mind's eye, see yourself making a different decision. And acknowledge the truth of your experience and the feelings that come up for you. And turn now to reflect. Turn now to reflect on the light. Think of a moment you feel good about. A moment when you did something you feel proud of. It could be something small, an act of kindness, an act of will, an act of generosity or creativity. Something that you did that brought goodness into the world. How can you make more moments like that happen in the future? Because we are beginning a new year with a fresh slate. You fill up with that light. And let your light glow. And as you begin to open your eyes, we're going to sing together, or actually we're going to do the Shema, the prayer that speaks of the oneness of it all. And it's on page 8. So one word, one breath.
Shama Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
So I just want to let everyone know that we're running around 10 minutes over. I hope you don't have somewhere huge to get to. I understand if you do have to leave. But at this part of the service where we're going to do prayers for healing and the Kaddish, I don't want to cut that short. So as we come to this prayer for healing, I would ask you if you would write the names of people that you are thinking of in need of healing in the chat. People who are in emotional pain from trauma or abuse, physical pain. My sister-in-law, Lori, just had surgery on her feet. People who are ill with COVID right now. Cancer, autoimmune issues, spiritual disconnection. So many names. And I don't know what it is now, 200 and 2,000 people who we have lost, and their families, the families of 202,000 families who are suffering from their losses. So I just want you to imagine that you can even do this with your hands if it's comfortable. You just imagine that you're just holding all of these names, so many, there's hundreds of names, holding everyone with the prayers for healing and for blessing. Tara is going to sing the most ancient healing prayer that we have, called El Na Rafan Allah, which is the prayer that Moses said spontaneously. They didn't have prayer books in the Torah. And he said his sister was very ill. In fact, so ill that she was put outside the tent, outside the community, which is like now, right? I mean, so hold all these names, and Tara, you go ahead and sing El Na Rafan Allah.
El Rafan Allah, 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 El Rafan Allah.
Thank you. So I want to take a moment to, we're not done yet, but I want to take a moment to introduce the team. Now we have a team. So I want to thank Jim Nelson, who is here still. Jim is the magician that worked with me on that prayer book. Isn't it fabulous? So the prayer book, and we had major technical difficulties, and still it happened. And I want to, and also Josh, who is a moderator. Josh is here. Thank you, Josh. My husband, Eli. Thank you. The candle lighter and the ironer. Ter LIeberstein, Cantorial Soloist, who works with a number of congregations in the Valley of California and is a member of our Hineni community. And Marianne Malkoff, who I'm going to introduce you to now, who has some announcements. And then when Marianne is done, she's going to do, and Lionel, are you here? Lionel is responsible for some of the absolute, Lionel Church, who's here, is responsible for working with me and helping really create this vision of Path with Heart and the Hineni community, which has just blossomed into the spiritual community that I always dreamed about. It's like happening. So, Marianne, you're on.
Okay. I'm on a kind of a different page here, Rabbi.
Okay.
I had thought we were at the poem time.
Oh no, that's tomorrow. You're doing announcements.
Okay.
Remember?
I thought I was on page 9. So here we go with announcements. This is so exciting. It's the one thing that'll be just like being in the synagogue when somebody gets up to talk about announcements shortly before the end. So we'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. There's still some parts that are going to happen after this. But one thing that's coming up that I want to invite you to is that our congregation that Rabbi is talking about, we call it Hineni, and it's awfully special. I know that when I came to find it, it was just exactly what I needed for my aching heart. So if you've ever wanted to be part of a community that goes deep into Judaism from a place of inclusivity and mindfulness, Rabbi Jill leads an online spiritual practice that includes these kinds of teachings, these kinds of meditations, the personal reflection exercises. And we have a bunch of guest teachers, amazing teachers. I mean, Rabbi Jill's fantastic, but boy, doesn't she know how to bring in these fantastic teachers and courses. She includes the poetry and the music, and that always happens. The community is called Hineni, which is our word for meaning, here I am. The purpose of Hineni community is to practice being present in life. On Tuesday this week, we're going to open registration. Rabbi Jill will send out a mail on Tuesday with all the details. The deadline to join Hineni for this new year is Sunday, October 4th, and I hope that you'll join us. What you'll find is there aren't so many times to join Hineni because we're actually on a path, and there are only so many places during the course of the year to enter the path, and now is our time. So if you wanted to join us, that would be really fantastic. Now, of course, if there's announcements and it's the high holiday, you know that now's the time that I'm going to make a request for donations to support not only this service, but the remarkable gifts that Rabbi Jill makes available to us. No one is obligated to make a donation, but if you're able, we'd like you to know that we would really appreciate you supporting Rabbi's work with Path with Heart. This allows her to continue to be the outspoken, independent rabbi she is. And our hope is that this kind of place and this kind of program will open your heart and allow us to continue to do more of this kind of work, connecting others to a Jewish path. So thank you for everybody who's already supporting us. We have really just been amazed at how you've come together for this particular season. Of course, this wasn't on anybody's to-do list. Oh, let's set up high holidays by Zoom. And I just want to thank Rabbi's unbelievable team for making this happen for us. So anyway, with great love, I'm so grateful to have this place to be able to spend this time with you. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you, Marianne. So let me just say that thanks go to Ter, who said to me one day, I don't know, it was like a month ago, and she said, Rabbi Jill, you know, do you think we should do high holidays? I was like, okay. Not having any idea. We had 550 people sign up for high holidays for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It was like amazing. So thank you all for being here, for being part of that, our inaugural high holidays. I think we will always do them. I hope that you will come back tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be really, really special day. I don't know if you remember, but I asked you in one of the emails, in fact, multiple times, I was collecting prayers for, I asked you the question, what are your limitations, anonymously? What are your limitations, and what are the good things that you have done this year? And many of you participated. It was a Google sheet. You can still participate. And I have taken those, not 100% of them, because some came in after I wasn't able to do all of them. I put them together into the prayers that we're going to do tomorrow, the collective prayers, and they're going to be amazing. And tomorrow, our service is going to go from 11:30 Pacific to 12:30 Pacific, and at 12:30 is Yizkor. And Yizkor is a Jewish memorial service, and we do it 3 times a year. You remember all the people in your life that came before. Cantor Fran Chalin, who's also a chaplain, is going to join us tomorrow for Yizkor, along with Tara, is going to start us out. And it is going to be a compilation of poetry, music, poetry, music. I'm so excited about it. So it's going to be moving and meaningful, and I hope that you will come tomorrow. So tomorrow will actually be an hour and a half, starting at 11:30 Pacific. Yeah, just remember it's Pacific. Every time we do these, someone comes on like 2 hours later. So make sure you remember Pacific, so you got to check your time zone. Okay. Now, before Kaddish, a reading before Kaddish. It is on page 9. Poem for my mother. Not having her in the world is the strangest. I just got to make the print bigger. I'm sorry. I'm going to start over. Okay. Not having her in the world is the strangest thing. Right now, a winter wind is blowing sunlight against the treetops, smashing it into a million atoms of joy. She herself found joy in every lucent leaf, each kiss of transient breeze against the cheek of the earth. She watched the short, sweet month of February with its red hearts, lace, and lengthening light, the promissory note of spring, come due with interest, every year, never jaded, always mailing a card with X's and O's to her middle-aged daughters. When she died, we said it was time at 88. No broken hearts here. She had a full life. She was ailing. She was failing. But in this light, with the snow dripping off the roof and the branches tossing, this light like a voice calling to the sleeping bulbs, the burrowing roots, this breath of fresh wind with its sting and its kiss, as much as I honor the spirit, I ache to touch flesh. And so if you would, in the chat, write the names of the people that you are remembering today. So many names. And many people are mentioning Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and we are going to do a special tribute to her tomorrow during Yizkor. So the Kaddish is on page 9, and if it's your custom, please rise. Yikadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah, b'alma divra chirite v'almich malchute, b'chayachon v'yomachon v'chayed chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala avizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam almei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yiraman v'yinaseh, Viet Hadar, Viet Ale, Viet Alal, Shmei Kudusha, Prihu, La'ela, Min Kol Brakata, Vashirata, Tushbachata, Venechamata, Da'imiran, Vialma, Vimru, Amen. Ose Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'erkol Yisrael, Vimru, Amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace among all of us and everyone in the universe. And we say together, Amen. And I just noticed it is a really good thing I have the Kaddish memorized, because we left out a section at the very end. I'm not going to have you go over Jim. Jim is probably freaking out because we had so many technical issues with that prayer book. Okay, we'll figure out what to do. Maybe we'll do it on the screen tomorrow. We'll do it on the screen so I don't have to get a new printout. So I want you to, before we go to the closing song, I want to mention a few things. Number one, starting tonight at sundown, many people fast. It is a custom of Yom Kippur. But I also want to acknowledge that there are many people who are unable to fast, either because of health issues, because they get migraines, because they're on different medications. There are many, many reasons why people may not be able to fast. And so I included in the prayer book on page 10, a prayer for those who cannot fast by Rabbi Simcha Weintraub. And on page 11 are some links that you can go to. We start tomorrow at 11:30 and we will go till 1. And there's the link to Hineni to get more information. And we're going to close with Ter is going to close. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to stay on for like 15, 20 minutes to answer any questions, to have some conversation, anything that you want to ask or say, okay? We're not going to do the breakout groups, but we are going to. And I'm interested to know, how many of you were here last time? We did the prayers on the screen, but I got a lot of feedback evidently in the chat that people wanted to see each other and not have this so much screen. And so that's why you have a prayer book, because we heard you. So I'd love to hear your feedback about what you thought, what really worked well tonight, what didn't work well, and how you liked working with the prayer book versus prayers on the screen. So Ter is going to close up with
Return again.
whatever you want.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, return again. And then Hashivenu. Yes.
You want both?
Yeah.
return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are born and reborn again, return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Ashivenu, Ashivenu, Adonai Kelecha, Ben Ashuva, Ben Ashuva. Chadesh, Chadesh,